Today, U.S. officials have new intelligence linking Russia to a deadly Azerbaijan Airlines crash earlier this week. 38 people were killed on Wednesday when a commercial plane traveling to Russia crashed on the shores of the Caspian Sea. Now, two U.S. military officials tell NBC News that the Russian military may have misidentified the commercial plane as a Ukrainian drone, a mistake that would have triggered air defense systems and shot the plane down. So far, Russian officials have denied those claims and suggested that Ukraine is to blame. This all comes as the Kremlin has rejected President-elect Trump's calls for an immediate ceasefire to end the war in Ukraine. And fears of a wider war have begun to resurface in the Middle East as Israel steps up attacks against the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen. All of this potential chaos awaits Donald Trump when he enters the White House next month, but he appears to want even more chaos in the form of territorial expansion. This week, Trump escalated his threats to retake control of the Panama Canal, and he doubled down on his desire to take ownership of Greenland, as in Greenland. Joining me now is David Rothkopf, foreign policy expert who worked in the Clinton administration and now hosts the Deep State Radio podcast. David, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you for joining me in the middle of this holiday season. First of all, Donald Trump has made a lot of seemingly unhinged promises. We'll see what comes of them. But the idea that he can end the war in Ukraine in his first 24 hours in office. First of all, what do you make of that? And what do you make of it, especially in the light of this potential air attack on the Azerbaijan commercial aircraft?
Well, I think Trump is already getting a cold dose of reality. That there was never a possibility that he was going to end it in 24 hours. What he was doing when he said he was going to end it was playing right into Putin's hands, because now Putin knows that the longer he drags this out, the worse the position is that Trump is in, and that the only leverage Trump has, he has no leverage over Putin, is over the Ukrainians. So Trump could pull support for the Ukrainians. But of course, Europe can support the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians can pursue this on their own. And I think what we're going to end up with is a long, complicated negotiation in which Putin plays a really tough line and says he wants not only all the territory, but he doesn't want Ukraine and NATO. He doesn't want Ukraine and Europe or part of the EU. And so I think this is going to go on for months and months. And it's just going to be another one of those promises like getting Mexico to build the wall that never materializes.
What do you think the potential appointment of Tulsi Gabbard, who is, if not a Russian asset, someone who has inclinations towards Putin, what do you think her at the office as the director of national intelligence, how that might affect the U.S.-Russia relationship under Trump?
Well, I mean, it would be a disaster if she were confirmed for this job. The intelligence community is extremely disturbed by the prospect of somebody who's so close both to Putin and also to Assad. But just take the story that you mentioned. The Russians are already putting out a fabricated conspiracy theory stories saying that the shoot down of the plane had to do with the Ukrainians. Typically, Americans debunk such stories. But Tulsi Gabbard in the past has embraced and promoted such stories. And so the idea that you have a Kremlin mouthpiece coming into the top intelligence job in the United States is bad for the U.S. And it's bad for Trump. It's bad to have that kind of person as an advisor because they're promoting lies. They're not promoting the truth.
I mean, there's so many things that Trump says and does that are confounding, right? But to use the week of Christmas and the Christmas holiday to launch sort of his plans for territorial expansion, retaking the Panama Canal, going after Greenland, and making Canada the 51st state, does one of these rise in your mind to the wackiest idea? Because they all seem pretty insane. But secondly, what do you think is behind the new American imperialism this week in particular?
I don't know. I think it was something he maybe ate over Christmas. This is kooky. Taking over Canada, going to war with Canada. That's from a South Park cartoon, right? This is South Park level foreign policy. You know how long Denmark has controlled Greenland? Since the year 1380. Okay, they've controlled Greenland for 700 years. The United States, even when we built the Panama Canal, said we were going to promote Panamanian independence, and our claims to the canal over the course of the century that we were there were very weak indeed, and that's why ultimately we signed it away. This is not going to materialize into anything except alienating our allies and making the President of the United States look like a buffoon.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been some Christmas ham, I guess, if that's what it led him to, right? I mean, and part of me wants to try it myself. What would happen? David Rothkopf, thank you for taking time away from roasting chestnuts over an open fire to join me tonight. Really appreciate the wisdom and thoughts.
My pleasure.